Welcome back to Business as Unusual. In today's episode, I'm chatting with Paul Ladipo, an inspiring DEI consultant. Get ready for some candid conversations and insights. I hope you stick around.
Business as Unusual is a thought-provoking podcast that explores the innovative strategies, disruptive ideas, and unconventional practices driving successful leaders and companies in the ever-evolving world of modern business. Subscribe, comment, and share for weekly inspiration with our host, Aicila.
Welcome to Business as Unusual. I'm here today with Paul, and we're going to do a slightly different episode today, which is kind of exciting to me. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Glad to be here.
And why don't you introduce not like what you're going to talk about? Because like I said, we're going to do things a little bit differently today.
I'm just going to talk about me being a DEI person, because I think that DEI is not confined to a job or a consultancy. It's just, I think one of my favorite content creators, her name's Ashani Mfuko, and so she says anti-racism is not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And so by DEI, whatever advocacy work you do, whether it's sexual assault awareness, anti-racism, DEI, LGBTQ plus rights, it's like it's not just a fad or a hobby, and it's a lifestyle. And I started a consultancy a couple of years ago, and around the time I started posting on LinkedIn, and so this was the beginning of 2022, and I got laid off from a DEI job at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, but I still had this burning desire to do DEI, but jobs either were cut because the economy was not so good, and then when George Floyd was murdered, DEI jobs, boom, explosion, and I applied for them, but the competition was so stiff, and so between DEI jobs being slashed, and then the DEI boom and job people were hiring, everybody was applying for these jobs. Like, I remember hearing back from one job and they said that, we had 3,000 applicants. I'm like, what? Wow. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go at it alone. I'm going to start my own consultancy, and I'm going to use LinkedIn as a platform to get people to get clients. And so I started posting. And I just started content creating. I guess people saw me more of a content creator than a consultant. And so, and I got clients and I got inquiries, but I think there was a lot of cold feet, and I think the DEI backlash dried that up a lot. At the beginning of 2023, I got clients and I got a lot of inquiries. Like, I remember, at least once a week I was getting an inquiry from somebody, but the DEI backlash intensified and it just dried all that up. And I'm just like, I don't know when this is going to end, and I'm already working a full-time job just to provide for myself and my family, and a lot of worrying about getting clients and how am I going to get clients, a lot of strategizing, a lot of worrying, and it caused a lot of stress. And I'm like, I don't really need this in my life. I don't need extra stress, but also I'm damn good at what I do regardless of consultancy. I don't want to lean on this. This is not stable. Yeah. This is not producing any fruit, anything. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let this go. I'm going to work my 9 to 5 until I find a 9 to 5 DEI job, and my online resume speaks for itself. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to cut this consultancy out. I don't need this extra package. And I'm at peace with that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I feel we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I think it's really important for people to understand that part of the process in the journey of if you are a solopreneur or an entrepreneur is learning when to let go, to notice. Like, one of the things I talk about with my clients is sustainability. And I specifically talk about the sustainability of the business owner in terms of you have to be recharged. And if this is taking from you in ways that make it impossible time-wise or emotionally wise to recharge yourself for your actual life, then it can be a hard decision. And I think it's a really brave decision to do. To be able to see it, I think, is also really wise. So I appreciate you being honest about that and sharing, because I know that's not you were supposed to make everything look easy and fun. And so I think that's a great testament, honestly, to what makes you probably really good at DEI, is that willingness to look things head on and say, okay, this is what's actually happening. And this is what needs to be done.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, whoever out there, maybe they have a consultancy, maybe they're thinking about doing one, maybe they're in a job that's not produced, that's really stressful. And so many people have said this, whether they're in DEI or not, they're like, you know what, your job does not define your worth. So if you're in a job or a field, or maybe you have your own business, and it's like, you know what, this is sucking the life out of you, for you to let it go, it doesn't reduce your value or what you have to offer. Sometimes things don't work out for things that are reasons that are outside of your control. Like the DI backlash is outside of my control. I don't know how long it's going to last. It could get better, it could get worse. I don't know. Depending on who's in office in November. Even if Kamala wins, I'm not naive enough to think this DI backlash is going to go away. I think it's going to find a way.
You don't think it'll just magically fix everything in our country?
Yeah.
What?
And regardless of who's in office, the backlash is there. It's going to be there for a while, and that affects people's behavior. Do they want to dive in or not? And at the same time, I'm a good writer and orator, but I'm not a great business mind. And I had to accept that about myself. I don't have this great business mind. And I also just don't have the time and energy, the resources to make it like that. It'd be different if like my spouse made like $200K, or if I had all this money in savings, like I can just quit my 9 to 5 and really just go all in. But I'm not in that boat. And so I'm like, you know what? Maybe for you, maybe for somebody else, they can dive right in because they have the business mind or they have the resources to do so, but I don't. So I'm like, you know what? That's okay. I'm going to let it go. And so there's factors outside of my control. And when I do my LinkedIn post about it, I'll say that, yeah, sometimes stuff happens that's outside of your control and you have to let stuff go. And that's okay. It's not a reflection on you. It doesn't make me less qualified. It doesn't make you less qualified either.
Something you said that I think is really important to highlight, and I will say, so I met Paul through LinkedIn, and one of the reasons that I asked him to come talk on the show is when he posts about different issues, the thoughtfulness and the ways in which he brings forward different kinds of inclusion topics. It just feels it brings in a variety of perspectives, and I find that I learn a lot from what you have to share, and I get connected to different topics I see them from a variety of voices. You also have a lot of people who give a variety of perspectives, and that's super helpful. In terms of, we talk about the backlash, but I feel like, I don't know, for many people, and I would assume you're one of them, like watching the upsurge, it felt like that marketing surge that happens, like, oh, this is the trend of the day. And it wasn't surprising to me that there was then a negative marketing trend, if you will. I don't know that there was ever a commitment to it. And what you said earlier about anti-racism needs to be a lifestyle, not a diet. I think that's a really great metaphor for understanding that a company that's genuinely committed to equity, it's not just that they have a DEI person, right? It's that they have it incorporated into the fabric of the company. And the DEI person is overseeing that as a crucial aspect of the company, in the same way the accountant is the crucial aspect of the company. So everybody in the company is responsible for financial management, profitability, managing receipts, and all of that. The accounting department oversees the coordination of their behavior. And in the same way, that's where I would put the DEI person. And I don't feel like a lot of companies view DEI the way they view accounting.
No, they don't. That is spot on, because and I've seen a number of DEI people express the frustration and over this, because it's yes, you have a DEI person, you may have a department, depending on how your organization is set up, but it's not all their responsibility. Like yes, they're the expert, they help guide the company, but it's a responsibility of everybody. So whether it's HR people, the hiring manager, whatever, and because look, I can be your DEI person for your company, but you as the CEO, you as the board, or you as the HR person, you gotta see things through a DEI lens, because I don't have all the eyes and ears of the company. Like, I'm trying to make sure practices are equitable and whatnot. But if you're hiring somebody and you're not self-aware of your own biases, you're not doing DEI. And I can't. If you don't do that, I can't take the blame for that because, look, I'm here to help you grow in this area so you can do your job better. And then when you do your job better, I do my job better. And people don't think like that. Let's just here, toss the money at this person department. Okay, do DEI. And it's, well, okay. I don't. It's not a wand I can wave around.
You don't have a DEI wand. No. You just go. I really thought they sold those at the DEI store, but
you're giving me an idea of a post. You're giving me an idea of a post.
Oh, good. And I think so. It's interesting to me because as someone who does DEI, and you've done it both as a consultancy, you've done it as a content creator, and you've done it as an in-house business coordinator or whatever the role of the company was. What have you seen be successful? You've done it in these 3 different areas, and I'm sure, like your own life, you have. If it's not a diet, if it's a lifestyle, is there an approach or a way of engagement that you've seen be successful pretty consistently?
I think honestly, to do this work, whether side of the coin you're on, so whether you're the practitioner or you're the person receiving this training or information, I think what works is when people exercise emotional intelligence and self-awareness are create a lot of success. So I think if I'm giving presentations or if I'm giving talks or if I'm making a post, and it's like emotional intelligence is important because it's like I need to manage my emotions, but I need to be aware of my emotions, but I also need to read the room, as they call it, which I don't like that term, but I want for reasons obviously for our neurodivergent friends, but it's like being aware of a time and a place and a manner and how you bring it up. I'm pretty forthright on LinkedIn, but it's I try not to kick down the door and say, hey, everybody, you're all racist and you're all bad and you all should apologize for being white. No, that's the stupidest approach ever. and on the other end of the spectrum is, let's hold hands, let's do kumbaya. We all bleed the same blood. I was like, ugh, because it's like, yeah, we bleed red, but that doesn't get to the heart of the matter. Yeah, we bleed red. We're all humans, and I get it. We share 99% of our DNA, and I understand that. But it's like, it doesn't change the reality of racism or sexism or homophobia. And we share this DNA, but like people are being discriminated against every day. So you telling me that we bleed the same blood doesn't answer the question. So I come upon let's be transparent. Let's be honest and aware and self-aware. Look, you saying those things indicates that you're uncomfortable. You saying that, we're all through the same blood. It's like, yeah, it's true. But when you tell me that, it's like, what I'm hearing is that you're uncomfortable confronting this reality of racism or sexism or whatever Islamophobia is out there. And so, it's, yeah, I see through the bullshit. It's my approach, and it works. It gets me enemies. But it's, look, throughout history, behave people don't make history, and people love to make MLK out to be this guy that never ruffled any feathers. We actually read MLK. He pissed a lot of people off, and that's the approach I take. Look, yes, I care. So I care on one hand, but I'm also honest. So I combine compassion with brutal honesty.
That sounds like a recipe for success, and people being uncomfortable is how we grow and learn, right? Yeah. You don't grow and learn if you aren't uncomfortable, and it's the learning how to work with it. I think as a white lady who was raised in a very white suburban area, I had to really seek out information, and it was uncomfortable. And those moments of, and I still obviously confront them. I don't think I'll ever stop confronting these moments of ignorance. And they're painful and embarrassing, and they're not nearly as painful as living a life of being discriminated against, right? And so I don't know, like that compassionate, brutal or radical honesty that you're talking about, it's a lot of emotional work for you to hold that. So it's effective. And I think that's another reason that companies and corporations are bad at this, is that the work really requires such a deep, consistent work from everybody. It's not about efficiency. And it requires connection and awareness and relationship. You can't be compassionate and honest with someone if you don't actually understand something about the situation, whether you're reading the room because you're good at that, or you've spent a lot of time getting to know everybody. And more modern corporate America wants everything to be spreadsheetable.
Yeah.
And this just isn't, it's not spreadsheetable.
No. And even I hate to use this term soft skills. I don't because it's like it downplays the skills, because it's like people skills. Let's call them that.
Yeah.
So it's the successful DEI takes emotional intelligence, transparency, and discomfort. And those three. And you got to be willing to cognitive dissonance. What you were saying is they reach a point that when you say that and then they feel these feelings, that's cognitive dissonance. You realize that what you taught, what you believe is not true, and that creates a feeling, and you don't know what to do with that feeling, so you push back. So it's like the realization that, white privilege and white supremacy do exist, and that realization, then how you respond to that. Like I remember some months ago, I made a post. I don't know if you saw it. And I've done it twice. Once last year in August, and then once this year in May, I think. I posted about white supremacy, and I had a pyramid.
Yeah, I saw that.
Each time, I kicked the hornet's nest. If you to go back to both posts, I cleaned it up because I deleted and blocked a lot. I left that long that day, but just the response, I'm like, wow, like what? I'm like, I didn't say. This one guy was like, this post is failed because you're trying to shame white people. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm trying to get you to reflect, and I'm not responsible for how you interpret that, but I can respect it. But it's just wow. All I can say is, if you and I ever meet at Monday, let's pop some popcorn and read those. The ones that I say, let's read the responses. And it's like, it's
yeah. So I'm a redhead. I promise this is going somewhere. And my entire life, I go to the dentist and it hurts. And it turns out it does hurt more for me than it hurts for other people. Yeah. They did a study. But before they did the study, I went to the dentist. And they go in and they give me the Novocaine, and I feel like it hurts. And they'd be like, no, it doesn't. And I'm like, no, actually, it really does. Yeah. And they're like, no, it doesn't. So they might give me 2 shots. And I just learned to get to the point where I could tolerate the pain so that they could do the dental work. And it was never painless. It wasn't even close, right? And then as you get older, your collagen apparently sheaths go, so it gets more painful. So you need more. Yeah, no. And then about 15 years ago, they released a study that we lack this collagen nerve stuff on our. And in the last 8 years now, I go to the dentist and they're like, oh, are you a natural redhead? I'm like, I am. They're like, oh, we can do this differently. And the last 2 years, it hasn't hurt. I had no idea you could go to the dentist and even just to clean, it could clean everything hurt, right? Yeah. The cleanings don't hurt everything. But me as a human saying this hurts, totally not enough. Nope, you're lying. You're wrong. And I'm like, I guess I'm wrong. I guess it don't hurt. Yeah. I guess everybody else is just tougher than me. Yeah. And now, the first couple of times it made me honestly really uncomfortable. If I'm getting a tooth filled or something and I move, the dentist stops. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yes. What is happening here? And I've really reflected on that in terms of the way that I would say what culture, Western culture approaches things. It's my experience was completely invalid until there was a study. And then it took about 10 years for the study to disseminate through the schools. And now I'm allowed to say it hurts and they'll listen to me. And I think about that every time I see a post about diversity, equity, inclusion, racism, disability, women, all of that. And I'm like, we don't really need another study, do we? Because whether there was a study or not, I and many other redheads were actually in pain. That was happening. Nobody was like... I mean,
that's brilliant. The way you put that is brilliant. Because I know a number of DEI content creators like, look, some people are very research and number minded, but it's like that can also be weaponized against marginalized people, because it's like, how much proof do you need? Because I know like somebody will post something, somebody will ask source ? And it's, dude, you can go to Google. The reason why we keep saying Google is free, not to blow you off, but it's like, if you really want to find out about something, you can spend 5, 10, 15 minutes. Like what you said about redheads in the college, and I'm gonna Google that. Now I'm curious, and so it doesn't make me an expert on being redheaded or the experience of redheaded or a dental expert, but that tidbit of knowledge is helpful. But if I'm a dental student, or if I'm teaching dental students, or if I'm a DEI for a dental school or medical school, I can relay that. Hey, when treating natural red patients, maybe you should consider this. It doesn't. I don't know. I feel like it's this whole credentialism. It's just another tool of white supremacy. It's prove this. I want the source on what article and the date and the MLA format and all that bullshit. It's just like, I see right through that. It's like,
it's a delaying tactic.
How much evidence do you need?
I will answer a genuine question with a genuine answer most of the time. And because I also have to be in the right place. I know that if I come at it from the wrong place, I'm not helping anyone. Yeah. If I want to vent, there's places I can do that. And also, when someone wants to take my time and energy, I'm like, yeah, I got work to do. And actually, you're not my work. It's not even that you don't deserve that support, because I really feel like, yes. However, there are other places that I have access to, family members or community members that will engage in conversation with me that have, I think, maybe more curiosity or more possibility for positive influence, that feels like that's where, if I'm going to do this, I want to put my time and attention there. Because I have a very brief life, like all of us, and I want to use that to create a good impact where I can. It's part of why I do the show. I want to bring out these conversations and this information so that people who are curious and interested and have your attitude, right? You're like, oh, I heard this thing. I don't know about it. I'm going to go look more up. And I feel curiosity is such a huge component of being able to take the work on to be part of making the community changes that are going to bring us to a better place. Like, the more curious I can be about what I don't know and really try to like build up more opportunity for myself. And that's where the studies can be helpful. It's like, oh, I didn't know that this is the system and how well cultivated it is to create ignorance for all of us. Yay, propaganda.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of... Yeah, I couldn't put that better myself.
What if you were gonna create your dream DEI situation? Sure. If you were like, I'm gonna go into something and I'm gonna feel like I can really make a difference. Okay. What would you say? What are the tools or systems or what that you would want to have in place?
So if I could wave a DEI wand or whatever that you would say.
But so not the DEI, yeah, I guess the DEI, like a job wand. Okay. Like
So I'm on social media, and I like being on social media, and making an impact there. But on a job, I don't need to be super high profile. I wouldn't need to be like the VP of DEI at Netflix or something. I wouldn't need something that's super high profile, because I feel like when you're that high profile, you have so many eyes on you that, what I found to being a DEI content creator on LinkedIn and elsewhere is that, like, I'll say something and sometimes people don't respond or they don't comment because they don't want their job looking at this. And I get DMs and people like say, yes, I agree with this about my job. If I saw that I liked your post. So if I could be like mid-key or low-key job, let's say I was at a nonprofit and I was building curriculum, or if I was building curriculum at a nonprofit or a school system, like something I could be behind the scenes, because I work well behind the scenes. I don't need to be seen by everybody, but like I can have my life on social media, but I could also be doing the behind the scenes in a 9-to-5, building curriculum or whatever. And I feel like that would be a good way to really make an impact. Because I'm not a type of personality like me being DEI at Walt Disney. Like that's a little too rich for me. Somebody else would know how to navigate those waters. That's not for me. But
yeah, I get that. What led you? And obviously, you have an identity and you have experiences, and those obviously contribute. There are lots of people that share on some level, as unique as we all are. You're not super alone. Your identity and your experiences. What turned that into an action? Like what made you go from, what moment was it that you thought, DEI is my place?
Yeah.
This is where I belong.
Yeah.
Or this is what I can do.
So I would say it goes back. I was an academic advisor. I spent a lot of years in academia, either as a student or an employee. And so I was an academic advisor, and I was bored out of my skull. Like, I cared about my students, but me talking about, oh, you're going to take Math 251, and I don't give a crap about Math 251. I care about you and your success, but talking about these classes and knowing about what's offered this semester, that just, oh my gosh, like, why don't I just watch wallpaper dry? But my students were open up about things. If it wasn't academics, it was their personal life. I've got to credit Gen Z and millennials for being more transparent about what's going on in their lives. And so they were like, oh, and I was at a primarily white institution in the conservative Midwest. And my LGBTQ plus students and Hispanic and Black students would be like, I'm not feeling this place. I don't feel very safe. I don't feel very... It was very mostly white, mostly conservative politically and religiously. And so my marginalized students would be like, something's off here. And I'm like, okay, what's off? And so, and I'm embarrassed to admit now, but I wasn't very culturally attuned. Like, I wasn't, even though I was a Black man back then, but I wasn't very knowledgeable about this and other forms of discrimination against marginalized people. And just hearing my students talk, I'm like, like, I don't give a shit about being an academic advisor anymore. I want to know more about what are the systems that are causing you to not be your best. And so I did a switch to DEI, and so never looked back.
Wow. I feel like that there is it's such a core thing, is the being able to say, oh, wait, what you talked about before, that self-awareness and maybe a curiosity. It's like, why aren't you your best?
Yeah.
How do we investigate that? Is there anything that you want to share with people about your journey, either in terms of your consultancy or DEI or anything else?
I kept my LinkedIn journey. So I started posting on LinkedIn because I wanted to get clients, but I also felt this need just to let out stuff that was going on in my mind. So, like, I got laid off in 2020, and I was already on LinkedIn, but I wasn't really active, and my employees connected with me there. But then in 2020, I was like, okay, I want a job. I want to connect with people and get leads. And so I started following people and connecting with people, and especially DEI people. And I saw as the pandemic was going on, jobs were getting laid off. And I remember DEI people say, yeah, it's a recession, but DEI is still important. We still need to talk about discrimination and whatnot. And then George Floyd's murder happened, and people were talking about that, and then all these jobs started, and then people were applying, and then people were like, oh, wait a minute, a lot of these jobs aren't very committed to DEI. They have people there to do window dressing, but they don't really care. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I still had this burning desire to talk about DEI, and then all the stuff in the news about the critical race theory scare and what is white privilege and reverse racism. I'm like, all right, whether I get a job or not, I'm just going to go on LinkedIn. I'm going to be myself. I'm like, this is what needs to hear. People need to hear, especially professionals, because hiring managers and HR people, they need to hear what I have to say. So I just started posting it without any reservations, and it took off. And so I did it. I was like, oh, hopefully it'll do well, and it's done better than I thought it would. So,
will you share advice that you've received that has influenced the way you approach your work?
Yeah. The best advice I received and would give is that, like, a lot of people on LinkedIn, when compared to Facebook, X, and other sites, people are like, oh, this is a topic for Facebook, not LinkedIn. I'm like, yes, it is a topic for LinkedIn. And like the old guard is like, you don't discuss, this is water cooler talk, and you only discuss business and connections. Like, you know what? Racism and sexism and whatever Islamophobia, follow people on the job, whether it's online or in person. But when people say this is on LinkedIn, like, I call BS on that. Like, it's the perfect venue for this, because people make business decisions that are biased all the time. And so if you're on LinkedIn, don't be shy about talking about all the stuff that you're not supposed to talk about. And there's some people that say, "Oh, don't talk about this," but more and more people are sharing about whether it's racism, sexism, overcoming substance abuse, substance addiction, sexual assault awareness, because these are things that affect people's lives in and outside the office. And for a lot of people, they don't compartmentalize well. That all that's meshed together. And whenever you want to talk about LinkedIn, talk about it. And I'm glad people are talking more about politics, because politics affects our lives. People are like, "Oh, what are you talking about this for?" I'm sorry, businesses make donations to politicians and causes all the time. And then based on whose office, some of us won't have a job. And so some of us won't be able to take maternity leave. Some of us won't be able to take paternity leave. Some of us won't get overtime pay. So it's, let's talk about politics, because this is going to affect not only our personal lives, but for many of us, this is going to affect our working lives. So get off your, you could either, if you don't like it, then scroll on and don't say anything. We don't need you telling us, gatekeeping and tell us what to put on our own profiles.
Well, you speak to something I think is really important, where they're being political. They just get to do it in a way that's more acceptable and a little quieter because it's acceptable. Whereas when we're political in other ways, that because of the challenges we face or the changes we want to see, it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes we just want to see things be better. Like we want people to have maternity and paternity leave. And so we're making a change, and that change is disruptive. And something someone said once, I think it might have even been on LinkedIn, is all our heroes were criminals. If we're being disruptive, we are the people you admire from the past. So just take note. That's all. So the kind of work that you do, and also you have so many things going on with the full-time job and a family, and I hope you're going to stick around LinkedIn and share your perspective.
I will. Definitely.
Such a great opportunity, I think. So everybody go follow him on LinkedIn. You'll get that in a second. What do you do to keep yourself inspired and recharged?
I'm a fan of self-care. And so I talk about self-awareness, and part of that is realizing that I exercise self-care. So like earlier, and I think in early August, I announced that, I'm going to take a month off. And I needed to when I was moving, plus trying to find a job, and my brain was just like all over the place. And I was like, you know what, I can't be my best on LinkedIn. Because I was already getting to the place where I was snapping at a few individuals that said something. Mm-hmm. It wasn't discrimination. They said something rude, and I went off. And so I'm like, you know what, before I say something I can't take back, I'm going to just step back and just recoup. I focused on moving and finding a job and playing video games, my downtime. And just, so I would say this like self-care and realizing what I like. And so I'm an introvert, I'm a nerd. I like to watch movies on Netflix, I like to play video games, and I like to read. It's just, that's how I feel like.
That's good. And like you said, being aware of it. And then for folks that are listening, how do they learn more, follow you, get in touch?
Yeah, if you look me up on LinkedIn, first name Paul, last name Ladipo. I'm there, so you can't miss me. So type in the search bar.
And I'll post the link in the show notes so that people can find you. Yeah. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me this day. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. I'll see you next week. I hope you enjoy the show. I love making it. If you did enjoy it, consider hopping over to the review portion of the platform you listen on and letting other people know about it. Or share the episode or the entire show with a friend or subscribe to the show. Definitely reach out, get on my newsletter, follow me on social media, and let me know what you like, what you don't like, and what you'd like to see in the future. Well, we love our guests. Appearance on the Business as Unusual podcast or any Bicurean consulting production is for information purposes only and is not to be considered an endorsement of their business practices, or character. Please properly vet anyone you find through this podcast and generally before you do any business with them. Thank you for listening.